Hi YouTube, we're here with the ASH26 and you can see I've laid out some masking tape. Took off the wings, of course. Use this micrometer. What I did is I measured from here and then here, and it starts out at 12 millimeters and ends up at about 29. So it's like about a 17 millimeter increase, but what I noticed is that the wing gets wider till about here, and then it stays closer to the same dimension. And because we go into this grub screw system to hold the wing on, along with the front set screw, or the wing screw rather, I can't really go wider and wider as we get inboard more. And so I just took and measured 29 millimeters and then 22 millimeters respectively here. So I've got my straight line up and my straight line over. And the idea here with this cut, of course we're going to have the servo probably down here as far as possible. The idea here is to make a nice clean cut, but not to penetrate through the front, because then we can use the covering and we'll just reinforce it with hinge tape. And hypothetically, if I cut on the inside, I can probably even use that film to wrap around the edge when we're done. I may have to recover it, I don't know. I don't really particularly like doing covering. I'm not particularly good at it. So I'm going to avoid having to do that. So my next step is to get a brand new X-Acto knife blade, number 11. We'll just swap those out real quick. These things are not free, but they're certainly not very expensive. And I've learned when I get into a project similar to this, where I actually really concern myself with the outcome, it's usually worth it to just put a new blade in. Now obviously this cut, I'm going to want to keep it true to the aileron hinge opening. And then what's going to happen is we'll back cut the actual flap so it can collapse, so it can go down and droop. So you can see this line. Well, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can see it. And so I'm just gonna, I might go in here and just darken the line, but I don't want to use a pen. It'll make too much texture. So we'll use a marker. I'll use this black marker. Of course I can't see the mark very good over there. I can see it great here. Okay, so now I can see the mark really good, but the mark is not especially square. And so I guess I have to try to come up with a straight edge for that. I bet one of these shims would work well for that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap past where I want to cut. Then I'll probably just tape it down so it can't move, or so that it is difficult to move. And I have enough of them, I can just put more than one down to get my whole cut. But I just need to remember to stop here, of course. So I'm not sure if it'll be better to just do a couple of different cuts or what, but I think for now I'll just overlap a little bit. Make sure we're lining up where we want to be. Now of course this is going to want to pop off of there, which is not good. So I'll tape it lengthwise. And then we'll just double check our placement. Make sure we're 100% where we want it. Okay, so that's That's 29 millimeters. Okay, so we got that taped in position. Then we're going to re-corroborate down here. So that's 29 millimeters there. Of course, we're going to double check everything once we have it hypothetically taped down. You don't see me doing this much adjusting very often, guys. Okay, so I'm just double checking. We're at 29. Well, that's convenient. Look at that. There's a staple or something there. Okay, so let's retry this again. That's close. Need a little bit of room for the blade thickness. Okay, let's try that again. Alright, that's good enough for now. So I'm just going to make sure this is taped tight. I'm going to start my cut. This is the very scary moment of truth. Okay, so now that that cut has been started, we can continue the cut, but rather than using another one of these, I guess I'll just use the same one. Just peel that off of there real quick. Okay, so we can see where the cut kind of finished up. Of course, we want to stop at our end point here. I can see my mark a little better on this side. I must have pressed a little harder. So let's just double check it now that we've got that in. That cut really, really easy, guys. Okay, so we're just a little bit wider. Just a fraction of a millimeter. I think we're good for what we're doing. Push this tape tight and it'll pull that gap open. Okay. Alright, so I want to stop my cut here, so I'm actually going to start there. So one quick thought, guys. This wire is way over here, so we should definitely be okay for not hitting our wire. Okay, so now we'll peel this off. We'll just tape this right here. Okay, so we're going to relocate this by finding our marks. Now this is 22 millimeters, so we'll just be kind of careful about this one. Okay, so that puts us at, well, there's 22. That's pretty darn close. I don't think we're going to get a lot closer than that. So holding this down without my finger in the way, so it won't cut me, if I go all the way through. Okay, so now that we have a cut, hypothetically we can lay this aside. We'll leave that for the other wing. Okay, so now we have a cut started. I'm just going to deepen the cut a little bit. Make sure my blade's going into the cut that's already there. Okay, so I'm just kind of jumping down a little bit at a time. Oops. Now this one we're going to have to take a little bit of material out, so I may have to take the saw to it. But obviously we have to get all the way through. And then eventually we'll cut this top, but we don't need to cut the top of the center, excuse me, the inner cut here. Definitely feel where the ribs are now. There's a rib there. 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 Okay, so we do have that cut started, so why don't we go to the saw? Well, no, because then we'll screw up the finish on the other side. I need something I can press harder against. As I make this cut, I need something smooth. This is smooth enough for, well, is it smooth enough? I don't know. This is smoother. So now I need to be able to cut all the way through. Potentially all the way through. Okay. So going to go into the material like that. It's very hard, whatever it is I'm trying to cut through. I hope it's not carbon fiber. I'll find out if I screwed up here in about a minute. So I'm going to try to go all the way through and penetrate to the other side. Yep, there's my mark. Okay. So now I can start the cut from up here. You can see we're on the top side of the wing here. Okay, so now I can lay this back down, supporting it with the wood underneath. That way I don't have to worry about hitting my fingers. Because like I said, I got a brand new blade for this and it's very sharp. Okay, so now we can have some level of confidence that that finish will survive the cuts. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to throw a little bit of tape over this for the next step. Okay. Alright, tighten that up. Go for the saw. It's a fairly thin saw. If we're going to have to repair finish, I'd rather repair the bottom. That was fun. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure if I got enough depth. I'm pretty sure I'm short. But my blade's only going to get so far because of the nature of this particular blade. So I think I'm going to stop while I'm ahead on that. Go back to the X-Acto knife. Okay, so I'm feeling like it's finally weakening a little bit in that area. So close. Okay, we'll just put that flat piece back there again. This would be a lot harder if the wing was more complex of a shape. It's actually reasonably simple. Okay. I feel like I made it through, but yeah, that looks like it's made through. So now it's just a matter of figuring out exactly how far I want to try to take this. I was thinking about maybe marking each of the ribs so I know where to concentrate my efforts. So I'll probably do that now. Obviously there's going to be the rib at the beginning. So that's a rib. Okay, right here's another rib. Okay, right here's another rib. I have to imagine that's a rib that I just slipped over. Yeah, there's a rib there. You guys can kind of start to see the pattern. There's another rib right there. There's a rib right there. There was a rib right there. I slipped off of it. There's a rib right there. Okay, there's a rib right there. And then we're already cut through to this area here. Okay, so now that we have the ribs marked, I can go in here and potentially get the blade in. Don't think that's going to work. I think I'm going to have to just work these more. Just like this. And remember, we're trying not to go all the way through. But if we did, it's not like the end of the world. Okay, didn't make it through yet. That's good. Okay, so now that one's free. And I'm just using this to keep my hands from getting cut if I would make a mistake. Because balsa wood's pretty easy to replace, but tendons and flesh and blood are a little bit harder to replace. Plus this gives me something good for shoring up the structure as I do this. Kind of mark that one bad. Okay. So every one of these cuts I'm trying to keep it nice and square. Square to this angle. The angle of the flat surface there. That one's extremely difficult to cut. So I'm going to mark that one as like question mark. Like maybe it's double or something. That one's also quite difficult. See the seam forming? Okay. So the difficult one, maybe I can open this up now and get the blade in there. Definitely was easier to get the blade in there after I worked back and forth a little bit. Okay. Oh yeah, that blade's a lot easier to do controlled cutting with than the X-Acto knife. You can remove material one swipe at a time instead of one giant slippery gouge at a time. Now we're cutting into the balsa wood frame, obviously, here, guys. Okay. Now in doing this, I may have to then go and reinforce the wing structure a little bit as well. And the flap, of course. Which kind of goes without saying, but there's not a lot of stuff left unsaid in my videos here, because the nature of how long I make them. Oh man, that was not good. That was extremely difficult to get that blade out. So now, I know some of you are probably thinking, why did you cut this side, Brian? You could have cut the underside, or you could have cut the top side and let it fold down that way. Yeah, I probably could have cut the top side and then let it open up that way, but I really wanted it to be attached at the top, similar to the aileron, because that's the way they usually make these sailplanes when they come with flaps. So... but yes, that would have been one option. This is very scary here, because this is where the front panel is going to now want to try to break. So let's just get this stuff off of here. Okay. Peel this off as well. And I'll actually leave that on there for now. This is a very scary step. Okay. Okay, that looks pretty decent. Given the nature of this operation, that's what I would call a fairly satisfactory result. Could have been better, could have been worse. I think what I've got to do now is probably vacuum out the debris. So we'll try that real quick. So now I could take and heat this up so that it would take down those little dimples, but it's not going to matter at this point. So as you can see, there's your flap. It's just going up right now, and it's not going to go up later, it's going to go down later. So now I need to take and try to encourage this wood to break a little bit neater. And that's tricky. Because I don't want to make it through all the finish on the outside if I can avoid it. Okay, now it's time to get aggressive and just get it done with. Oh, it's so scary. It's like pulling a child's tooth or something, you know. You know it needs to happen, but you don't want to. Oh, look at that. There's an opening in there. That's cool. But yeah, this is kind of good because we missed structural support in there, which is nice. So now obviously we have to continue by cutting a relief cut and getting rid of that material in there. Probably about where that green tape is, to be honest. But the other thing I want to do is I want to take and sand this a little bit so we have a flush surface on both sides. And we're about ready to run out of time on this video, guys, so if we were doing spoilers, that'd be awesome right there. But we're doing flaps, so thanks for watching, guys. Come back for more. ASH26. Brian Phillips here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.